Bad. But actually not really. Okay, fine. Trustmaster reward materia. Limit burst gauge boost 50%, not very good. 60% spirit boost, that's fine. And minus 30% dark resistance to get killed by Sephiroth faster, very cool. Her super Trustmaster reward has been buffed. More magic, more spirit, same attack and passive. If you weren't using it before, you still probably won't be using it now. Unless it's the best thing you've got, which my condolences. Active abilities. Divine Decision deals spirit-based light damage that chains a bolting strike, and lowers the enemy's light resistance by 120%. Evocation, Source of Magic uses 4 Esper Orbs to fill a good amount of MP for one ally. Evocation, Rich Source of Magic is the same, but better. And more expensive. Guardian Light raises your team's light resistance by 100%, and then shoots your dark resistance into foot. And then the rest is pretty bad. But at magic spells we have Ultima, which can get even stronger, and Holy, which can't. Passives, but for Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, she gains evoke damage, stats, and wow, that's not a lot of bonus stats. She prefers to dual wield in this form, despite only holding one weapon apparently, but don't let that stop you. There's also evoke damage boost and a limit burst regen. Wow, that's a lot of passives. And you can see that they're so simple you can literally read them from their short blurb. No wonder they consolidate these nowadays. Okay, let's go over what's new. At EX plus 3, you get an instant limit burst. Quadruple cast. The normal attack deals light evoke damage and fills the evocation gauge. Esper boost. And now we'll go all the way down to Bond of Sakura, which was probably involved with her story quest, but now we'll never know. Also stats. And this one boosts the damage modifier of her magic damage, which is actually pretty useful. Finally, we've got an evocation gauge regen, which is interesting and kind of helpful for niche teams. Let's look at her limit burst. Okay, mission accomplished. Time to change forms. Citra's Brave Shift has a 3-turn duration and a 4-turn cooldown. Active abilities. Most of her abilities will scale off her spirit stat. Except for Ultima, obviously. Negation is a dispel on the other side. Lucent Inoculation boosts everyone's light resistance by 100%, except for Citra, but that won't matter. Photolysis is a debuff dispel for one ally. Summon Burst deals evocation damage that chains a bolting strike. Divine Core can be used once per battle. It boosts her magic and spirit by 280%, raises her limit burst damage by 200%, and completely fills her limit burst gauge. Passives. She gets a non-prohibitive dual wield, a chain cap push, and Atonement, which lets her absorb light damage. She also gets a big limit burst damage boost. She's overall stronger in this form, in return for sacrificing a few stats that don't really curb her strength. Let's look at her limit burst. It lowers the enemy's defense and spirit by a strange 74%, boosts her limit burst damage by 100%, and then deals spirit-based evoke light damage. Let's rank Brave abilities. I prioritize the one who knows loneliness to raise her damage modifiers, and then Divine Decision and Summon Burst just raises damage. Time to make a damage rotation. On turn 1, swap for someone else, but I guess you're already fighting, so activate her Brave Shift. I'll be going with Divine Decision for elements, but if light magic doesn't work out, you can always just shift to evoke. Cast Divine Core and triple cast Divine Decision. On turn 2, activate her Limit Burst. On turn 3, quadruple cast Divine Decision. On turn 4, you shift back. Quadruple cast Divine Decision, and that's pretty much all you're going to do for the rest of her life. Of course, with her Brave Shift you can use her Limit Burst, though it greatly depends on what you're fighting, how Citra's built, and whether or not you can replace her with another unit. So, EX2? EX plus 2 doesn't unlock anything, but EX plus 3 does get you an instant Limit Burst. I don't quite know why you need one, given that Citra easily fills her Limit Burst by the second turn, and it's not so powerful that you really need to get it out quickly either. Make no mistake, it can be helpful, but not to a tremendous degree. And while there's really no reason to use her base form's Limit Burst, I guess you can watch the CG Limit Burst. That's always a plus. So how good is Citra? Despite being a very cool unit with very cool forms, Citra's ultimate damage output won't quite turn heads. It's an odd case, there's not really much wrong with her. As a damage dealer, she's more than respectable, especially for her state as a Neo Vision Awakened unit. It's just that there's such a huge gap between her and the best that it creates this image that she's far worse than she actually is. Just like most units with the exception of Sephiroth and Rizer, but I digress. Overall, Citra's biggest flaw is that she's mechanically simple, and her damage output isn't high enough to compensate. Her base form has hefty MP recoveries, but not quite enough in terms of magnitude and speed. Her Brave Shift has Dispel, which is kind of a bit of a stretch to really push her by ability. And while she does have light resistance for everyone, the buff isn't quite the same as Seahard's Elemental Absorption, and there are many units that give more elemental resistances while also doing a lot more overall. Ultimately, Citra's a damage dealer with niche bonuses, abilities that are good in a pinch, but you could have also used someone else that would have kept you from being in a pinch in the first place. Like Sephiroth just killed.